Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Since this is my first video, I'm going to talk to you about three things today. First, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it. Second, we're going to look back. I'm going to talk about the 2019 tennis season, focusing on the Grand Slams. And thirdly, I'm going to look ahead of what's to come and what's to be expected on the 2019 tennis season. In a separate video, I'm going to talk about the men's Masters events of 2019, how the players were, how the tournaments were played, what were the most important events in the Masters Series tournaments. And I'm going to do also a separate video on the women's side, 2019 slams and what's possibly to be expected in the 2020 Grand Slam season for women. Alright, so let's start with the 2019 season on the men's side, tennis Grand Slam events. So if we think back at the Australian Open at the beginning of the season, was a very good tennis tournament, very good matches throughout. We had a mouth-watering final between Rafa Nadal and Novak Djokovic. At least that's how it started. Everybody was thinking, okay, this is a little bit similar to what we had in the 2012 Australian Open, where we had a thrilling, fascinating final. We had back then a match of almost 6 hours, 5 hours 53 if I remember correctly. And yeah, we thought, yeah, this is going to be really exciting and really good, especially since Nadal was coming on with a new type of service, new way of playing, being more aggressive, going on the first or second shot already really big, flattening out the forehand a little bit more and going more directly down the line. Djokovic and Nadal both played a fantastic tournament. They reached the final. Djokovic dropped only one set in the fourth round against Daniil Medvedev. Nadal did not drop one set. So people were kind of expecting that Nadal might be the one who does it this time, but no, Djokovic was playing incredibly well, one of the probably highest levels of tennis matches he's ever played in his entire life. Nadal wasn't playing particularly badly, but he was a little bit more tentative at the beginning. And Djokovic really pounced and capitalized on his good form and Nadal being a little bit more tentative. So that's shortly the story of the final of the 2019 Aussie Open. Up to the semis, Nadal was playing Stefanos Tsitsipas and Djokovic was playing Luca Pouille. Pouille was maybe a little bit of an unexpected surprise, not reaching a latter stage of a bigger tournament in quite some time. Back in 2015 he did beat Rafa Nadal in the fourth round in 5 sets at the US Open, but since then he really didn't have any big showings, so that was big for him this year. And Stefanos Tsitsipas, the other contender in the semis, he's taken out Roger Federer in the fourth round. So that was a big event, a big happening during the tournament. I don't want to really call it a surprise. In the end it was one, but we saw from Stefanos Tsitsipas last year that he's a very strong prospect for tennis and he can do big things. The fact that he did beat Roger in that fourth round was a confirmation of his arrival, basically. So that's about it, very quickly and briefly about the Aussie Open. So moving on to the French Open, the 4 protagonists participating in the semi-finals were Rafa Nadal, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic and Dominic Thiem. All really big names, no big surprises. Maybe Federer was a little bit of a surprise because we didn't know what to expect of him. He wasn't playing at the French for quite some time now. And coming back, playing on clay, longer matches, but he was doing really well. He was playing fantastic tennis, and in the quarters he had a special show against Stan Wawrinka. Stan did beat Stefanos Tsitsipas in the fourth round in a 5-set thriller. Nonetheless, Stan looked pretty good in the quarters against Roger, but Roger was really playing with him himself and didn't really give the impression to anybody that he's not gonna win that match. Even though Stan won a set, it was a 4-setter, but Roger was playing still very well. In the semis, where he was playing Rafa Nadal, it was their first meeting in a slam since the 2017 Australian Open, where Roger Federer won when Rafa was 3-1 up in the fifth. Nevertheless, Federer came back and won the next 5 games. We sort of had the impression in the last few meetings where Roger was playing Rafa that he's figured him out a little bit more. He's hitting his backhand a little bit more aggressively, hitting through the shot, not playing so many slices maybe anymore, and he can get many times on the offensive against Rafa, so he might trouble him a little bit more even though they're playing on clay, but no, this wasn't the case. Rafa was very dominant, and it was an incredibly windy day, and we all know how well Rafa copes in the wind, and he's beaten Roger on that day in straight sets. On the other hand, the other semi-final at the French, Djokovic against Thiem, was a very exciting one. It was interrupted by bad weather and it had to be resumed on the second day. Thiem seemed to be coping with conditions a little bit better, especially on the first day. Like, he was accepting, okay, it's windy, it's tough conditions, but I want to be out here and I want to compete. Djokovic wasn't particularly happy in the first set, and I think overall in the entire match that might have cost him. Thiem winning eventually in 5 sets. In the final, Nadal Thiem, it was a competitive match, a little bit more competitive, especially in the first 2 sets. Splitting the first 2 sets, Nadal winning the first, Thiem winning the second, but in the third and the fourth it was pretty much Nadal dominating, only losing 3 games in the entire third and fourth sets. This was the first time Thiem managed to take a set off of Nadal at the French. They played 4 times in total, including this year's final. And Nadal is 4-love up. First time, second round 2014. Second time 2017. Semi-finals and last year's final. And every time, each single time, Nadal has won in straight sets. So as I said, this is the first time where he's managed to take off a set. So Thiem managed to take off a set of Nadal. So that was quickly a wrap up of the French Open. Moving on to Wimbledon. Wimbledon was probably, especially from a final perspective, a fantastic encounter, one of the best probably of the whole decade. Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic making it all the way to the final. Federer did beat Nadal this time in a relatively close 4-set match, and Djokovic has beaten Roberto Bautista Agut also in 4 sets. It was probably such a dramatic final because it was 5 sets, and in the 5th set, new rule at Wimbledon at 12-all, so it's not like at the Aussie or at the US Open when it's 6-all tied in the final set they play a tie-break. No, they go till 12-all, and if it's still undecided by a break, then they're gonna play the tie-break. And in the previous 4 sets, where Federer has won the set, he's won it with a break, so there was a cushion of at least 2 games between the 2 players. And the sets where Djokovic has won, those were tie breaks. And Djokovic was the one who managed to edge out the 5th set tie break at 13-12, so winning all 3 tie breaks of the match. And the biggest shocker was that Federer at one point had match points. He was serving and he was 40-15 up, so 2 straight match points, and nevertheless did not manage to convert. He lost his service game, and that's why they went to the tiebreak. So the level of tennis was very good, very high quality performance from both players. Federer very disappointed that he didn't win. From a Grand Slam race perspective, everybody talks about the GOAT. GOAT meaning the greatest of all time. Who is it going to be, or who could be considered the greatest of all time? Nonetheless, I'm not going to go into the discussion of the GOAT in this video, but one of the indicators of the GOAT are the number of Grand Slams won. And Roger Federer is still obviously ahead with winning 20, so if he would have won Wimbledon this year, it would have been his 21st Grand Slam title. Djokovic would have stayed at 15, but by Djokovic saving those match points, coming back and winning, he's now at 16, Federer at 20, and at that point in time, Nadal was at 18. Alright, so moving ahead to the US Open. Again, a really good tournament with great matches. From a semi-final perspective, as I look back and going forward, Nadal was reaching the semis, playing against Matteo Berrettini. Berrettini, a good showing this year, very strong grass court season, winning Stuttgart, playing Federer at the fourth round at Wimbledon, playing really strongly, and now reaching the semi-finals. He lost to Rafa in the semis, and on the other semi-final it was Daniil Medvedev, the hot shot basically of the 2019 summer. Medvedev reached the Washington final, the Montreal final, and he won the Cincinnati final, so that's how he was coming into the US Open. Had a difficult run through the final. He was sometimes cramping, the crowd was giving him a hard time, he wasn't responding well to that, but in the end he's shown really a lot of grit and determination, reached the final and has beaten Grigor Dimitrov in the semi. Dimitrov, on the other hand, did beat Roger Federer in the quarters in 5 sets. Roger wasn't maybe 100%, he had sort of a back or neck problem, but let's not take it away from Dimitrov, who had an abysmal season up to that point. So a really good comeback for him around at the end of this year. So Medvedev beating Dimitrov in the semi, Nadal beating Berrettini, and we had again a fantastic Grand Slam final. Maybe it wasn't as exciting. It was very exciting, but if you would want to rank it, it's probably not as high as the Wimbledon 2019 against Djokovic against Federer, but it was still super close. Nadal won the first 2 sets, and he was a break up in the third. Medvedev came back, won the third with a break, and won the fourth, again a break. And Nadal was 5-2 up in the fifth with 2 breaks, and then he lost 1 break. And he almost lost another break when he was serving at 5-4 in the fifth, but eventually managed somehow to pull through and win it. So yeah, it was a very good Grand Slam season with exciting matches throughout the year. Now, going ahead and looking ahead at what's to be expected next year. So this is a really interesting topic because we're going to be at 2020, Australian Open is going to start in about 2 weeks' time, and in the last decade we did not have one single player who would have been born after 1988 to win a Grand Slam title. So imagine somebody being born in 1990 or 1991 would be by 20 to 29 years old. And nobody at that age has still managed to win a Grand Slam title. So looking ahead, I think this cannot go on for very long, although I think the 2020 season may still be a little bit premature to write the big 3 off. If I look at the Aussie Open, I still see Djokovic as being the overwhelming favourite. Nadal, again, the super hyper overwhelming favourite since he's won the French Open 12 times already. Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, either one of these guys is probably going to win Wimbledon, I don't see really anybody else from the next gen players to step in at Wimbledon and dethrone one of these guys. The US Open is probably the most open one. As we had this year, relatively new faces coming in, and Rafa was the only one from the old guard who still was in the first four in the semis. I think players like Medvedev, who, as I just said before, played the final, might have a good chance this time to go all the way and maybe even win the title. The second most likely Grand Slam where I could see an upset happening, except the US, is the Aussie Open. I think since Stefanos Tsitsipas has played so well at the Euro Championships, and this is a little bit of a faster court, that might suit him more than the US Open. So if an upset happens, then I would take Tsitsipas for the Aussie Open and Medvedev for the US Open. At the French, it's very difficult to see anybody else coming up and beating Nadal. The only guy who might do it is Thiem or maybe Djokovic if he makes it to the final and is going to play Rafa. So that's on both ends, on Thiem's end and on Djokovic's end. It's a big maybe. You may know if you're a die-hard tennis fan, Nadal has played 95 matches at the French Open throughout his whole career, and he's won 93 of them. He's lost once in the quarters to Djokovic and once to Robin Söderling from Sweden in 2009 in the fourth round. So, I mean, if you just look at the fact how dominant Nadal was throughout the last 15 years on clay, it's very tough to bet against him. But if somebody can do it, then I would pick, of course if he's healthy, then I would either pick Thiem or Djokovic. Alright, so that's about it for today's video. Thanks a lot for tuning in and watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like this one, you can watch the next on the women's side. Grand Slam review and look ahead on the 2020 season, and another video look back on the Masters on the men's side. Thanks a lot for tuning in again, and as I said, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, see you!